Welcome to the Football Guys Dynasty Show. It's me, Jagger, as always, and then with me is our Dynasty captain, Jeff Bell. And as I promised, guys, I went to school, got my grade 10, and I learned how to read and write, and I've put together a big board article for you guys. We're filming this ahead of time, so I'm assuming the graphic already went out on social media, and I don't know how you responded to it, but I'm assuming poorly. So we'll dive right into it to my tier one, where I think a lot of people will have mixed feelings. I have Travis Hunter as my top prospect, and then Luther Burden and Tetairoa McMillan right afterwards. As far as like the actual prospect grades, Burden and McMillan are 0.25 point differential from each other, and they're different kinds of players. I think this is kind of the same situation, but kind of a discount Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., where they're two different kinds of players. Because I definitely see Luther Burden being like a Malik Neighbors, and then Tet being that like a pure X type player. But the real hot one is Travis Hunter. I don't know what Travis Hunter is yet, and that's what's so intriguing because he already looks so much better on both sides of the ball. I think any team in the NFL they need a cornerback and or wide receiver, and I don't know what that's going to do for scoring. It's almost like exciting. Like if you even just have tackles in there, like what would Travis Hunter do in an IDP league? So what are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, in an IDP league, Travis Hunter would
he'd be the greatest of all time.
Not get the ball thrown in his direction, but yeah, no, I don't know. It's almost be that would be curious to see how they handle that, because I know that in fantasy baseball with Ohtani, they basically made him two different players, because the idea of him being a hitter and a pitcher was just breaking everything. So yeah, if Travis Hunter's playing both sides of the ball in an IDP league, that's pretty interesting. But no, I think that we saw new quarterback contracts and new wide receiver contracts, and seems like it would be better for him to become a full-time wide receiver relative to being a corner. I mean, what Justin Jefferson got 4 years, $140 million, and then Jair Alexander, highest paid cornerback, at 4 years, $84 million. So you're talking about almost double the money for a wide receiver.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people said, well, it's like if he gets drafted top 5, it doesn't matter, like it okay, it doesn't matter for his rookie contract. Yeah, it matters on the second one a lot. Also longevity, because corners, as soon as you drop a little bit in athleticism, you almost can't play anymore. That's the one position. Well, look at Darrelle Revis. He was never super he was never super athletic or anything, but he was so technically sound. But as soon as he lost even that little step that he had, it was game over for him. So, do you think Hunter's a better wide receiver or cornerback right now?
I think he's a better cornerback right now, but I'm really curious where he decides to go. He got away with a lot of hand fighting downfield, and there's a lot of he knows better than probably anybody, but he's definitely pushing guys around downfield that a more aggressive officiating crew might not have let him get away with that.
Yeah, and like I said, I have him at the top right now because, like I said, I just don't know what he is, and he showed a little bit more polish than he did the last year. And another thing is having Pat Shurmur. I don't think he's gonna fix this team, but I definitely think that him having a lot more NFL concept has helped both Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, because he can do a little bit more complicated things. Because like I feel like him at corner and at wide receiver, he's like almost good at everything at that position, where he needs a little bit more nuance to be a wide receiver. He needs a little bit more nuance to be a cornerback, and that's where I'm worried. And I know your team Luther Burden over T-Mac. Are you still that way after week 1? Because like I love Tet McMillan, and I think he's going to be a great player. And like I said, there's not a lot differentiating them. But he did have like a lot of busted coverage. 2 of them, like one guy like fell down. Like it was a lot of bad defense. Again, not saying he's a bad player.
No, I agree. I'm happy to get either. I think that usually when I handle those types of situations, I want to see the season play out, I guess, before I'm going to give you a real answer. Might be some of it. Luther Burden, I don't know if fall off is quite the right word, but definitely didn't perform the way that Tech McMillan did week one here. And I think that it could be a situation that he keeps that up, that you're going to have the value is going to be a gulf between the two of them.
Yeah. Next, we'll move down to what I'd consider tier two. And I was talking to Christian Williams a little bit about this. And these quarterbacks and running backs have really kind of are naturally tiered themselves, and there's not a lot of separation between them right now, and a lot of them kind of scored the same. Carson Beck had a decent game, and right now he's a lot of people's QB. Honestly, QB1's wide open. Depending on who you talk to, they've got their guy. Right now, I feel like Carson Beck is the safest NFL-ready QB from what I've seen from 2023 and this one game. Because like I said, I know that games were played, but it's a very small part of the process. And again, they're mainly playing scrubs at this point. Is Carson Beck still the QB1 as of right now for you? Or was he ever?
I would say yes, he still is. There's just so much to be played out here between I think Shedeur Sanders looked a little bit more comfortable than maybe he had in the past. He wasn't running for his life quite as badly as he was towards the second half of last year. I said in another show, I really liked what Garrett Nussmeier put out with LSU in his first start there, second start there. He played the bowl game, but him being NFL lineage, that's the type of thing that can be a differentiator as his season goes on. So that's one to keep an eye on. Even Miller Moss in that game against USC, I don't think he's quarterback one territory, but he performed very, very well. And so that's where Drew Allar had a really strong game for Penn State. And I think tools wise, Drew Allar might be at the very top of the class when it comes to raw ability and putting the tools together.
Yeah, Drew Allar. I think at the end of the day, he might. I see him as being the guy that could be my QB1 when it's said and done, because I think you know as much as anyone. Like I did the whole Billy Bean meme from Moneyball. It's like Billy this is Drew Allar. He's got prototypical size, arm, everything you would want for a blue chip athlete. His defect is James Franklin. I don't understand Penn State, man. Like I looked at, like I said, I've looked at all these prospects. One of the biggest standouts is Abdul Carter. When you think about the freaks of nature that James Franklin has brought in, why aren't they more productive? It really makes you scratch your head. It really does. Like things that make you say, why does James Franklin suck? Because boy, do you got a lot of talented guys on both sides of the ball. So, and I will say, like I said, he looked sharp despite James Franklin, so that's good. And I did see some an interesting a scout take on Twitter where a lot of people, they're going to look at the production and the wins, and they're like, well, why would you have Drew Allar? If you know what NFL scouts are looking for, you wouldn't be surprised, because a lot of, if you look back at like Josh Allen, I'm not saying that Josh Allen was as good as a prospect or as polished as Drew Allar is now. In fact, Drew Allar is a lot more polished. But that is my point: is that when you have all those tools, they're willing to go after them. And that's why I think Carson Beck. I don't know, man. He looks safe, and that's my problem. Where I worry. I'm not saying he's C.J. Stroud, but like maybe he could be C.J. Stroud, where it doesn't look hard for him, so it's hard to scout him, and it's just hard scouting QBs. But to Shedeur Sanders, I will say, again, having a clean pocket. One thing that he has is that playmaking ability, and I know that's like a general term, but with quarterbacks, you could see the ones who make it happen and the ones that don't, and that's something that he flashes a lot more than Carson Beck does. So he'll be fun to watch. Now for the running backs, where I do feel comfortable at. Ashton Jeanty, everything that we said about Tet McMillan, same thing as how I feel about Ashton Jeanty. I think that he had a great game, and he could be the RB1. I'm just not ready to put him over Ollie Gordon, even though they came out with the exact same score.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that Gordon, we've seen a little bit more consistent. I mean, the things that Ollie Gordon did the second half of last year he should have garnered more Heisman consideration than what he did, because the way that he was producing and keeping them really relevant for the Oklahoma State program. And now they look like they had a dominant performance week 1. They look like they've got a little bit of a passing game there with Alan Bowman to support him. So that'll be definitely one to keep an eye on. Actually, Ashton Jeanty has that big matchup with Oregon coming up this week. And I think that could be a big separator for him, either direction.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he does the same thing against Oregon, then I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to do it. Because another thing with Ollie Gordon, he has size, man. He's like if you really think about it, Ollie Gordon's kind of like a baby of Derrick Henry or honestly Jonathan Taylor. It's what he kind of reminds me of, but even a little bit more fluid. Jonathan Taylor he didn't have the lateral agility that Ollie Gordon had in college, or just the pure explosiveness. So it's pretty exciting. On to tier 3, Jeff, you made the joke that I really like these tight ends, and it's true. I have 2 already in tier 3. I have 2, I guess, technically in the first round at this point. Luke Lachey looks every bit as good as an Iowa tight end. Another thing that's nice is Iowa, I think, is going to have a real offense. Cade McNamara looked pretty good, and I think Luke Lachey is clearly their top target. Someone else that I think, once we see him in pads and playing against people is Evan Stewart. He was already really good for A&M. A&M just had a Jimbo Fisher problem. And then we have the other running backs, but we'll stick with like Luke Lachey and Evan Stewart first. Do you think Stewart can jump up like to tier 2 pretty easily, or even can he jump up and pass the other wide receivers? Because he was a pretty talented prospect.
Yeah, and some people have him there. I think that one of the biggest things that I saw coming out of that first game was the way that they really relied on Tez Johnson in that offense. So I think he's going to outpace Evan Stewart when it comes to production wise. He's got the familiarity in the scheme, but when it comes to Stewart needs to really put it together. I feel like I've always been I've seen people coming out, and the way that they came out of recruiting rankings and just the Devy rankings have always kind of put Stewart there relative to Burden and McMillan. But I need to see a little bit more out of it to actually go there. And again, like Tez Johnson seems to be the focal point of that passing attack, not Evan Stewart right now.
Yeah, and he has an attitude problem, doesn't he?
He's a guy. He believes in himself. He's a wide receiver. So
yeah. I guess. I mean, if anything, he's already got the makings of a diva wide receiver. Yeah, and that's what I think. Maybe later on down the season, we may see more for him. And a lot of this, I did this purely on like a grading a score, and like a couple of guys I moved even off the score, like Emeka Egbuka I moved up even though he scored lower, because this was solely based on 2023 tape, and I know that he can do more, and he could probably bounce up a little bit more this season. But like with Evan Stewart, he has so many tools there that if he does a little bit, I could see a team really like him. The next on the same team, Treyveon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. After I went through the All 22 tape, I like Judkins a little bit more than I thought he would. But Treyveon Henderson does all the things that we love in fantasy a lot better. I really see him being just a 3-down monster that could catch passes. Ohio State, I mean, you know better than anyone. They asked Treyveon Henderson to do a lot, and he is great at a lot. So it's interesting to see how they're going to move going forward, because they still have good wide receivers, but I expected them to rely a little bit more on the run. I didn't watch this game, Jeff. How did it look between the two running backs?
Well, I think Henderson, the biggest note about Henderson is not a stat sheet thing. He had a blitz pickup that was just phenomenal. That he had a guy coming from the second level. He just stood him up, pancaked him. And so I think that's the type of thing that a team is going to circle and say, like, and I think that might have been some of the knock on him, or why he came back and developing that area of the game relative to just kind of being a guy with the ball in his hands. And so seeing that, I think, was a big differentiator for him. Ohio State's offense, I saw a good chunk of the first half, and then the second half I saw a little bit here and there. They definitely did not get rolling the way that you would have expected them to get rolling in the first half. But Jeremiah Smith is like the difference maker. Jeremiah Smith it's, I mean, blasphemous, but in his very, very first game, it feels like there's almost no fall off from Marvin Harrison Jr. to Jeremiah Smith coming in there as the wide receiver. So he's already the guy that double circle and put an exclamation point next to.
And I love, I think it was you that might have had this comp where I know that Marvin Harrison Jr. got a lot of AG Green. Um, Jeremiah Smith, someone said Julio Jones, and it makes a lot of sense. And that's why I thought like, Julio Jones was as good as AJ Green was. I thought he was a better player because he was just so explosive, and that's kind of what you see out of Jeremiah Smith early on, where he just got an extra step that and a gear that Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't have, and that's going to be fun to watch over the next 3 years. So. The next tight end that I really like, Terrance Ferguson. This is one where I'm just going down a list. I didn't even know really who this kid was until this point. Then I put on the tape and I was blown away. You want to talk about someone else who could be a focal point in Oregon's offense? Terrance Ferguson, I think, is a guy. His tape reminded me a lot of Luke Musgrave, where you just saw an athlete who could do everything that you asked of him and was super smooth in space. And then this last guy on the list is someone I'm pretty high on, and it's Xavier Restrepo. I think he's probably one of the best route runners in this class. He's a tough player. I watched all of that Miami game. He is the guy there. And even at his size, he's built like a running back, kind of like Curtis Samuel. I saw him make adjustments catching the football. They had him throw the football. They had him run it. They moved him everywhere. So you want to think about a guy that's like Jayden Reed, Josh Downs, Ladd McConkey, that can, if anything, I think he's kind of more athletic than these guys. This is someone that I feel that I'm going to make a lot of trades to move back up to get.
Yeah, I hear you there. I think that's kind of fits that profile. Ladd McConkey is the type of player that would come to mind, that just the ability to be that slot at the NFL level and also creative with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, it really is where is he going to go type thing for what'll be his value, because like you've heard us talk about Jayden Reed. If he can be a consistent top two contributor, he can be a really good guy for you. But if he goes to like a quagmire, or if he goes to a team that is, let's say, like the Patriots, where like Pop Douglas is a similar profile, then you might see him, struggle. But this is a guy that they can earn targets at the NFL level. All right, now to tier 4 as we move our way down. Another guy that I really liked his tape a lot, and I think he's underrated. Omarion Hampton. He does everything that you like. If he wasn't in this class, I think he would probably be the number 2 or 3 back in this next one. And then before I even dove into this, who was originally my tight end one is Colston Loveland. To be honest, I still like him. I don't know if he has the juice as the other two guys, and I don't know if he's going to have the reps. So it's hard for me to really put him up above these other guys, because the thing about Loveland, when he played in the slot, you almost knew what side of the field they were running the ball. And again, it's not knocking him as a player. It's just that, like, how much can we really see or really project of him until he gets drafted, because of the production there in that Michigan offense. And then we talked a little bit about him ahead of time, Drew Allar. I don't know if he stays here at all in this tier. He could definitely jump. Quinn Ewers is someone that I did not like his 2023 tape, but that one game and what I saw, he looked like a much different player. Specifically to Quinn Ewers, did you catch any of that Texas game? Like, you see the no look pass that he had?
I only saw the Arch Manning touchdown. I did not see. I saw the Isaiah Bond, when he like adjusted his helmet like mid route, like shook the dude, adjusted his helmet mid route, and then caught the touchdown. I did see that one.
Yeah, Isaiah Bond. I know you were talking about. I think he's going to replace Evan Stewart probably next week for me. Once I get a little bit more on there, he looks great. I think he's the perfect combo of A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. The dude, if anything, I think he might be a better route runner than both of them at this point. Really, this team's going to go as far as Ewers goes. So, and it's like Ewers, he was like the number one quarterback, and he just hasn't really put it all together. If he can get that deep ball down, he really looked like a much better decision maker. So, I'm kind of excited for this Texas offense, and specifically Isaiah Bond. And Emeka Egbuka, how did he look against in his opener? Does he look healthier again? Do you think that he's now another wide receiver too? Again with Jeremiah Smith?
He's definitely. I mean, it's all Jeremiah Smith, man. That's
Yeah.
what it's. He kind of broke the game open, and I don't know. I was not inspired by Emeka Egbuka coming out of that game, and it was nice to see Will Howard have some mobility at the quarterback position, but it looked a little bit more like JT Barrett back in the day. But it was really the Jeremiah Smith was the biggest talk coming out of it because he scored multiple touchdowns, just had a massive, massive game in his very first college game, to the point where you can see, even though this kid is playing his first college game with a bunch of guys that could be in the NFL right now, it's like he's dictating the offense.
I think Emeka Egbuka is who the people who hate JSN, I think that's who Emeka Egbuka is. If that makes sense. That like, and I'm not saying that that's a bad player or anything, but I don't think that he's ever going to be a team's top target. I don't know if he's going to be a team's number 2 target at that, but like he's just not quite as explosive and as athletic as other people are, and he's got kind of that tweener build. Like if anything, I'm not saying he could be a Debo, but he could be a Jaden Reed for a team, which could be promising. He's just not as well rounded as a lot of these other guys, and that makes me feel a lot better about my original grade. And I'll probably be lowering him down soon. And because believe it or not, I have him graded lower than the next guy in the next tier that we'll go ahead and drop into in tier 5, and that's Antwane Wells Jr. For Ole Miss. I know that Ole Miss got a couple of new guys, but Antwane Wells Jr. I really loved everything about his tape because he's a transfer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's from South Carolina, so
yeah,
he was on the same team with Xavier Legette last year, and to me, he was the guy that kind of stood out relative to Legette before Legette really kind of took off going into the draft. Like Juice Wells was the guy that I thought was the better receiver.
Much better receiver because like when I first put on, because like I said, when I made this list down, like a couple of these guys that I didn't know of, like a lot of them I did, but Antwane Wells was someone I didn't know. I was confused because I didn't know he transferred, and I was just like, wait, this guy looks like Spencer Rattler throwing the ball, and then it was, it's like when you're late at night, you see a lot of plays on there, and then Antwane Wells is a much better player than Xavier Legette is, and I think him being with Lane Kiffin, and then having like a better QB like Jaxson Dart thrown to him, that we can really see him jump up and make a splash. And a lot of people that like Tory Horton or like I said, Emeka Egbuka, I think that Antwane Wells might be that type player. When you think about like the Romeo Dubs, the Dontavian Wicks, these kind of low key guys that we see rise up. He's a guy that I'm kind of circling right now on my draft board that I'm looking to get with the late 2s, early 3rds, depending on where he has them, where the NFL has him. The other guys in here is Devin Neal, Trevor Etienne, and like I said, Tory Horton. Tory Horton honestly probably belongs in the tier below. It's just hard to get a look at him because Colorado State sucks so bad. They're just terrible. Braden Fowler Nicolosi doesn't look good. It's hard for them to get any offense going because nothing really works. So let's just put an asterisk next to his name. But Devin Neal and Trevor Etienne, you're the one who put me on to Devin Neal last year, so I already really liked him. Watched the tape again, still backed it up. Him and Trevor Etienne are both very similar players. Etienne is out this week, or he was out because of conduct. I guess he was being like a little poo-poo head or something. And that can, especially when you're a running back, that's concerning because you already have an uphill battle to draft capital being a running back. Stuff like that, I think that could easily drop him down with this many running backs until like to day 3. But he has all the tools and he's in a system where he could get a lot of production. So this is definitely like this year your Ray Davis tiers, your Jalen Wright tier of athlete, where the right system, you're looking at a pretty decent player. Any thoughts on Neal or Etienne? I know you're a big Neal guy.
I think Neal is a solid rotational back. Probably, I don't know that he goes to feature back
No.
status territory at the next level, but I think he's definitely a 1B type back in like a 1A 1B type of a backfield. So no, I like Neal.
To be honest, both of these guys, because again, their profiles are similar, that their grades and what they're good at. You nailed it about like a rotational piece, and that's why I said Jalen Wright, because Jalen Wright, I said I like him a lot if he's a Dolphin or in a system like that. I only like him a little if he's on these other teams. That's how I feel about Devin Neal. If a Devin Neal goes to the Texans, I'll like him a lot because they have that similar outside zone and he fits that profile. If he would go to somewhere like the Raiders, I don't know if I like him as much, or the Giants or something, because I don't know if they're going to get the best out of a player like that. The last guys, I don't know what they are yet. They're dudes. They can move up or down. You're probably going to be drafting them. It's just a matter of like second round, third round. Notable guys, Jaydn Ott, I like. Like if you like Devin Neal, he's a poor man's Devin Neal. So take that with what you will. Dillon Gabriel looked all right. I really, Oregon really, I think they're really good at polishing up dusty old quarterbacks. So I don't think he stays here either. Bryson Nesbit, I didn't have a lot of tape from him. Graham Mertz, I liked his 2023 tape. Florida seems like a worse version of Penn State. How does Florida have all these talented players, but they can't get anything done? Like Billy Napier just doesn't seem to be the guy. Connor Wegman, I don't. I like what you said, Jeff. He's got to put it together. Nick Singleton, I don't. He was everyone like the RB1 of this class at one point. That's done. Even after this game, I don't think Penn State's kind of relying on him. They were using 2 running backs this week, I'm pretty sure. So
They always
the
been,
fun.
Loy Allen or gosh, what's his name? Allen, the other back, has always been working in with Singleton.
Yeah. So he looks like another Braylon Allen, where he's like a kind of a big boy who doesn't have everything at the next level. The fun players that I really want to talk about: Squirrel White and Cam Ward. I think I mentioned in our football guys group chat that I was interested in seeing now with the NIL deals and kind of college having its own free agency, how the NFL would view some of these guys who move to different systems and learn and then stick around longer to get better. I feel like Cam Ward fits this. I brought up DJU and Cam Ward. Cam Ward looked great. DJU looked terrible, and I think that's going to be the hit rate. Do you think Cam Ward has what it takes to be like a draftable guy that may rise up and have like a Michael Penix type rise, or something like that?
I've always thought he's interesting. He's definitely got the athleticism, and he's always seemed like the processing seems to be there with him, and he went into a Washington State situation last year that Washington State didn't have a lot of talent around him, and was able to kind of elevate that program a little bit. And yeah, stepping into Miami is going to be, he performed excellently in his first game. I think that there's maybe some preservation things he needs to do with his body, because he definitely puts himself out there a little bit. But no, I think that he certainly has that upside.
Yeah, I like Miami a lot. The ACC looks terrible, so I wonder if Miami's they're gonna get into the playoffs. I'm pretty sure, especially with the expansion, just because they have such a weak schedule. It's just what Cam Ward kind of does with that team. Squirrel White was the other one I mentioned because I was talking to my Tennessee friends some of my best friends, and they don't like me because I feel like I fairly judge Tennessee, where they have a really good college team and a really good college offense, but they're not really good at putting out NFL talent right now because they don't ask their players to do a lot. Now that they have Nico Iamaleava, I wonder if it's one of those things where they didn't do a whole lot because Hooker and Milton couldn't do a lot, or if that's just kind of what it is. And that's why Squirrel White, because he's a really good athlete, is he another Tutu Atwell? Can he be like a zoomy Tank Dell and not so much as polished as Tank Dell is? I don't know what he is, so I think that's going to be fun. Because I definitely see Tutu Atwell. I just want to see more before I tell people to go and target him. And then another one that's on this list because people like him, Donovan Edwards is not a good running back, guys. He's not good, man.
Your list, Jack.
Take him off.
I give you some homework. Like Deion Burks needs to be on your list. I think that Kyron Ware Hudson looked really, really good last night. I think that there's a kid, Kendrick Law, I think it is, from Alabama, that I think is a guy that is going to emerge a little bit. So we'll work through it. We'll get there. You did a good job.
What it is like I don't have film for these other guys. Like other guys that I want, I can't get tape for anywhere. And it's like I can't look at highlights and then make, any good conjecture on. And that's why I tell everyone this is version 1, guys. Like and like I have asterisk in here for a reason because I know as a lot of these guys get more reps and teams gel more that some guys are going to move up and down. Like another guy that I don't like that people like is Elic Ayomanor. I don't get it on him. Mitchell Evans plays tight end, so that is something that he does. So as I get more tape, I will update you guys and talk to you a little bit more about the process. But that wraps up this show, Jeff. College football's here, man. We're doing it for real. You and I, we're going to be cooking on our rookie guide a lot earlier. We're going to be giving you a better product. I'll be giving you guys a big board every week on Superflex. I'm still pitching to the company right now, but I want to give you a normal big board with every prospect because I'm doing real sicko stuff, guys. That's why I make the medium bucks. But until next time, if you guys have any dynasty trades, these are what your picks are looking like. If you're trading for any first rounder that you think is Tet McMillan or Luther Burden, whoever your guy is, let us know what those trades are in the comments, and me and Jeff can break them down during our trade episodes. Until then, I'm Jagger May, and that's Jeff, and then we'll see you guys next time.